G'day, welcome back. Today's video is a little bit different. This is a recording of a one-on-one session with Marion from our community. To join our community, go to smartphonephotography.club. That's all it is now, and that'll redirect you to the membership page. It's a free membership. Get access to all my unlocked tutorials, free courses, paid courses. It's all in there, as well as the latest podcast episodes, YouTube, conversations. The forum is fantastic. So I jumped in there and put an invitation out there for anyone who wanted to jump on and do a one-on-one live session with me and edit your photos. And Marion is one of the ones who responded. It was fantastic. So in this video, it's basically just a recording of our conversation, playing around with her photos. So we'll get straight into it after this intro. G'day, I'm Mike and welcome to the channel. Twice a week I share techniques and tips on photo intention, composition, capture and mobile editing, all on your iPhone and Android smartphone to help you become that more confident and creative photographer that you desire and deserve to be. Okay, so we're inside Snapseed, and as we mentioned before, you're quite familiar with this, but there might be something that I might do where you go, oh, I never thought to use it that way. And if that's the only thing you get out of this, then that's fantastic. So you mentioned that this one is a little bit dark, and yeah, and I can see what you mean. The shed is a little bit dark. Quick question: when you took this photo, what was it that motivated you to take this photo? What was your intention with this?
The colours just like it was just so beautiful, and it was
Yep.
really calm and peaceful, and I just thought, oh, this is just beautiful.
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
didn't show what I was feeling.
Yep. No, fantastic. I can see that. And there's a couple of other visual cues in there that kind of do that as well. Is the shadows on the mountains in the background. So that kind of tells the story that this is a late afternoon as well. And so because we can go in there and we can edit out those shadows and make them all one tone, but I reckon that really adds to the story. It does there. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I like the calm water. That's fantastic. And I only just saw it now. That person standing there.
Yeah, there's a person in there. I sent you the wrong one. That doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. No,
because I took three, and I just said, "Can you move out of the picture?"
No, but
that's all right.
I love that. I love that there's a person in there putting a human element in a photo. It does two things. It adds scale. So otherwise, we'd be looking at this and going, I'm not quite sure how big that shed is. I mean, the table and chairs kind of provide scale there as well. But you're not quite sure how big the shed is. You're not quite sure how big the lake is. But by having that lady down there towards the waterfront there, it kind of provides scale that, wow, that is actually a really big lake. So, yeah, I quite like that. And the other thing is that the other benefit is that when you look at this, you go, oh, I want to be that person. It kind of invites you into the photo, doesn't it? You think, oh, imagine standing there taking a photo of that. It looks nice and warm. It looks just calm and peaceful. So, yeah. So
we just done Meander Falls actually. That other picture of the waterfall took us 6 hours and 10 minutes to do it. But yeah, that was on our way back out.
Right. Oh, it's the same trip. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Alrighty. Okay, so looking at this, the first thing I want to do, what do you think my first thing's going to be?
Straighten it up.
Yes. You've been around my community long enough, Marion. You know, number one, straighten it. All right, so going to pencil, there's two things we can do here. One is we can go into rotate, which is what most people do. And you can see there, because there's a strong horizon line, the app has actually, inside Snapseed, it's automatically just gone bang and it's auto-adjusted. And it's done a pretty good job there as well, actually. So that's one way. The downside of using this, just using the rotate and having this do it automatically and that sort of thing, is that in some photos it will actually crop out. Because you can see here, if I take over now and I go a bit ridiculous and we straighten it, you can see there where it's shaded around the outside. That's going to be lost when I press the tick. We're going to lose those. Yeah. So sometimes you actually lose some context. So if I go back to where it was, so it was at 1 point. Where did it go? Actually, what I'll do is I'll go back, go in there, let it do it again. Boom. There we are, 1.6. So you can see there to the left of the frame, you can see the table and chairs are kind of a bit cut out. So I might actually have enough.
Yeah.
So that's no good. We don't want to lose that because it's kind of awkwardly cut off. Like if we're going to cut that out, we want to do it properly and not just have it half cut out. So I'm not a fan of that tool. I'll show you another one. So go back into the pencil, and I wish you could see where I'm touching. I'll just have to describe it. Pencil, and next to rotate, we've got another one there called perspective.
Yes.
Okay. The inside perspective, we've got a few options. One that I want to play with here is called rotate. And just tap on the screen to get rid of that stuff down the bottom. Now, when I swipe left and right, you can see that it's doing the same thing. It's rotating the photo. So I'll get it to about where it was pretty good, which was about there. And you can see our table and chairs are still there on the far left. It hasn't cut them out. Because what this tool is doing is it's adding those black areas you can see. And when I let go of the screen, I'm still holding it now, it's going to go and fill those areas in. So if I let go, and you can see there, and I'll do it to a bit more dramatic, you can see the difference there. And you can see there, it's just copying and pasting content that's inside the photo already, and it's filling in those areas. So it's super cool. It's so good.
That's better than the straighten then, isn't it?
So much better. So much better. All right. Now we can see here the building is. I'm looking at. So we've fixed the horizontal line. So now I'm looking at vertical lines, and because where there's vertical lines or horizontal lines, they provide stability in the photo. But they also, if they're not straight, like the crooked horizon, if they're not straight, we kind of subconsciously know, oh, something wrong with this photo. So still inside perspective here, one of the other tools here, we did rotate. Next to it, you can see there we've got tilt. Can you see that one on your screen?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Okay. So hit on tilt, press on tilt. Now we've got two things. We can change it so that it's on an angle like that, or we can go the other way. And this other way will actually change those angles of the building. So instead of that, it's going to go up a bit more until that looks pretty good about there. Okay, happy with that? And while we're here and we're doing this, we'll just have a look and go, is that going to change the composition, be a bit more inviting by stretching it a little bit? I think stretching it just a little bit that way is quite good. And I might need to go and just rotate a little bit more because I kind of mucked that up a little bit with that. Perfect. There's our before.
And that's got that right on your line then too, hasn't it?
Yes, that's right. So that's our before photo, and now we're looking at that. So we've done two things. We've straightened it. Well, we've done three things actually. We've straightened the horizon. We've fixed the walls of the building, and we've also kind of looking at it on a little bit more of an angle. And I quite like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, fantastic. So what we have here is we've got a couple of what do we call it? Diminishing point or parallel point, converging lines. That's what I was looking for, converging lines. So I'm just going to take a screen capture of this, and then I can draw on it. So I've got a line going across the roof line, and then on the edge of the building, I've got another line here. So you can see there, we've got those two parallel lines, but they're converging, and that is really nice. And we've got another one here with the tabletop. The tabletop goes to the same point.
I have trouble getting all those bits to point like that.
Yeah, and a lot of photo composition is purely by accident. As you know, I'm very close to finishing my stronger photo composition 4-step system. I've got over 100 different techniques and tools in there. I just had a debate with someone a little bit earlier today about, that's too many tips and techniques. It's so overwhelming. But my 4-step system is all about trying to help you become more intuitive with this stuff so that you're not actually thinking about it. And then if you get into a bit of a creative rut or you're editing your photo, that's where then you can go back to this system that I've created and go, okay, where is the main subject? What do I want to, like now we're looking at this and my eye goes straight to that bright spot in the middle of the lake. And then I go and look to the shed. That's the hierarchy of focal points. So what is attracting my attention first? So my attention goes to the shed. And then because of those lines of the shed, it's kind of bringing me back past that person, back to, and you see how your eye kind of travels around the photo.
Yeah.
And that's all composition is. Composition is just the arrangement of elements in the photo and recognizing what attracts people's attention and how you control it, like engage them, move their eye around so they've got a bit of a journey. It's really cool. I love geeking out on it. But most of the time with this, it helps to understand why some photos you look and go, wow, that's a cool photo. And quite often it's actually really hard to articulate what it is about the photo that you really like. So more often than not, it is actually just a combination of multiple different compositional elements. So I can see another one here. You've got this track here, and that track is pointing up towards that person. You can see there that little, is that snow or? Yeah, so that tire track.
It was a little bit,
Yeah, so that's kind of leading to that person as well. You've got nice balance. So you've got that. It's off center. You can see there by just I've got the rule of thirds there, so you can see that's off center. And being off center, you've got lots of space over here to kind of encourage you to have a look. And it's just compositionally, this is a really cool shot. So I can see why you like it.
Yep.
All right, so get back to this. So that's really all we've done is straighten it. We've had a look at the perspective. So press tick, happy with that. Back into there. The next thing I do is go into tune image. Okay. And we can see on the left side, I'm not sure what you're looking at, Marion, if it's a little, are you looking at a phone or on a big screen?
iPad.
iPad, beautiful. So on the left here, you can see there's a histogram. See there that I'm tapping it?
Oh, yes.
You can see that? So with this histogram, I'm just going to get a little bit technical for the moment. With the histogram, that tells us where those peaks and troughs are. That tells us where the information is in the photo. So if I go to here and I make the photo really, really bright, see how that has just gone, all that information has gone to the right side of the photo and just gone boom, like that in that histogram.
Yep.
And does that make sense? If I go the other way, see all that data has gone to the other side of the histogram. So all that information, so that histogram down the bottom there tells me, hey, there's a lot of information in this photo that's really dark, or there's a lot of information in this photo that's really bright. So the reason why I'm mentioning this is because we talked about there being a lot of shadows in here. So what I can do is go to shadows, and I can increase the shadows, and you can see with the histogram, you can see that we are increasing the shadows. We're creating a bit of a peak there. But what's happening is, how do I best explain this? If I go back, okay, and see at the two far ends of the histogram, one is the brightest areas and one is the darkest areas, okay?
Yeah.
And that was kind of visually explained when we made it really bright, all the information went over here. When we made it really dark, all the information went over to that dark point, that far end of the histogram. What happens when we increase the brightness of the shadows, okay, and we're increasing the brightness, it kind of has a bit of a HDR kind of grungy look to it. And the reason that is now I've brightened all the dark areas and now I don't have any black. I don't have any black in the photo. And the way we know this is looking at the histogram. You see where we've got the bright areas, we've got the dark areas, and see how we've got this big gap in the dark areas. We've got this big gap where there's no dark, and then all of a sudden it goes up. Can you see that? Yep. So that histogram is telling us that, hey, this photo, we can do a lot with this. We need to try and increase the shadows, those dark areas, but it kind of looks really funky at the moment. We need to bring some black back into that photo. So there's two ways of tackling this. We're doing a bit of an advanced lesson here, Marion, because I know you've been around the community for a while, and I want to add some real good value for you here. So there's two ways of tackling this. One is we can, and I know you've played around with curves, so we can go into curves and change the black point, bring some blacks back into it. Or the other option is instead of using shadows like that, we can actually go and just selectively brighten up parts of the photo. So I'll go in and show you the first option first. Okay, so we're going to do that, make it really dark. Now we'll go into curves, okay, and then with dragging the bottom pin, you can see there we've brought some blacks back into the photo, but it still looks kind of grungy. So we've added blacks back in there, so we now have some black in there, but it doesn't look very nice. So what I'm getting at here is increasing the shadows can work in some photos. Some photos like this one, it kind of doesn't. And a lot of photographers out there, as part of their process, every photo, they will go and increase the shadows and make the shadows brighter. And I'm not a fan of that because quite often you get caught up like this and go, okay, part of my process, straighten it, crop it, boom, 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 increase the shadows, do other things, and then they come back to it and go, oh, it's starting to look really grungy and really overcooked and over-edited. And more often than not, this is the step where people get really unstuck, and saturation is the other one. All right, so I'll go back in there, view edits, get rid of my shadows. And so we want to selectively increase the brightness of those shadows. So what tool do you use for selective edits?
Yeah, the tune in image when you selective, when you just
Perfect.
put it in one spot.
Yeah, perfect. Selective. Yeah. So we're going to go to selective, and I'm going to just tap on the shed, and then I can pinch and zoom. And when I pinch and zoom, that increases the threshold of surrounding area that I'm selecting, or decreases, so you can do just a tiny bit or a big bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that. Okay, and then I'll go to brightness. I'm just going to make that shed a bit brighter. And you can see there, we're starting to go a little bit grungy. It's losing its contrast, so I'm going to add a little bit of contrast. Yeah. And structure. Bring the brightness back a little bit. And we can do the before and after to see what we're doing. So that's looking pretty good.
Yep.
Looking pretty good. Might bring brightness back a little bit. Quick tip. See how, if I do the before and after, actually what I'll do is I'll zoom in. Okay. Do the before and after. Have a look on the other side of the lake in the shadows there when I let go. See the trees?
Oh, yeah.
See how
yeah,
and we don't
they're in that circle.
Yeah, because when I did that selective, I kind of selected that area as well. If I try and avoid those trees, I end up with a circle. We don't want a circle either that I'm editing. Yeah. So what we do is we tap on the plus, and what I want to do is tap on those trees in the background there, tap on those trees. Now when I go back to selecting that pin that I dropped on the shed, and I pinch and zoom again, have a look at this. It won't go across the lake over to those trees because you can't have two spots that are selected at the same time overlapping. So it's a great way.
So how did you do that then, Mike?
Yeah, so if I drag that one out of the way, okay, I've got my first pin, okay, pinch and zoom until I've got the area of the shed that I want to edit. Yep. Yeah. And you can see there that it's going over to the trees, which I don't like.
Yeah.
So what I do is I drop another pin over to the trees.
Yeah.
Or just press the plus button and tap that on the trees.
Oh, yes, the plus button. That's what it was. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
There you go. Yep. And you can add up. You can add up to, I think it's like 11. Last time I checked it, so you can do quite a lot. And then I'll go back to the shed, pinch and zoom, and it won't select over that other selection of the trees. So and you can say we can brighten the shed and it doesn't bleed over into the trees. So that's really, really great. All right. What else do we want to do here? The mountains in the background, it has kind of like an autumn effect where it kind of gets a bit hazy, loses contrast, fades away. And
in the middle.
And I kind of like that. It kind of creates depth. Now, some people will say to you, oh, we can go in there and we can darken that and make it look like... But when we do that, it starts to look like a two-dimensional photo. It kind of looks like it's just slapped there. And so I actually really... And what I'm talking about is this bit here. So I really like to have that depth, and we could even exaggerate that a little bit and make it look like it's a little bit further away. So using our selective tool again, get a pinch and zoom, tap on that area, pinch and zoom, and because I just want that, now what I'm showing you here is just take a screen capture and draw on it again. Okay, so this area here, that area there is where I want to, where I want to just make it a little bit less a little bit more faded and lighter, just to further emphasize that distance. Okay, so I've selected drop the pin. It's going to select everywhere, so I'm going to drop another couple of pins around it. Okay, so now I'm getting closer. That's great. Brightness, I want to make it a bit brighter.
Great, yeah.
Contrast, reduce the contrast so it still looks natural. And you've heard me say this before, Marion, it's go to where you think you like it and then come it back a bit. So I'm thinking that looks really good there, but I'll bring it back, say 20%. I'll bring it back a little bit and that just helps avoid over editing. And then I can go back. There's the before, there's the after. So we've just made that distant mountain there look a little bit more distant. So that's looking really cool.
Yeah. I really like the way you've explained, like putting them other ones into focus just on the one.
Yeah.
How you drop the other bees in there. Yeah, that makes heaps more sense.
Ah, fantastic. Now you can do a similar thing with the brush tool. If I go into the brush, and you can go in there and you can go in here and you can, with your finger, you can finger paint. So that is another way. I just find the brush tool really strong and intensive, and I don't know whether I was a really bad finger painter when I was younger. I don't know. Maybe. I was never the creative type, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But I just find it really doesn't work for me. So I'm just a real fan of that selective tool. So that seems to be working. Over here, see this shadow here on the back there, on that mountain range. So this one here looks nice and natural. It's great. It's dark. But then when we move across to the other side here, we've got that real nasty blue tinge to it. Can you see that?
Yeah.
The blue, dark blue. So what I'm going to do here is show you another more advanced technique. So if I go to the pencil and I go to white balance, okay, I'm going to pinch and zoom so I can see where I'm working. Now, I'm going to have a bit of a play here, and it's going to affect everything. It's going to muck up the whole photo. That's okay. I'm only looking at that blue area, and I'm trying to work out how to kind of make that look a little bit normal and have a bit of a play around with that. Because after I press the tick, I can go into another area where I can go and go, okay, now I just want to apply that to that blue area. All right? So go in here, temperature, and I'm going to, if we go to the left, that's blue. If we go the other way, we're adding yellow to it. So I'm just adding a bit of yellow, and that's looking a lot, you agree that's looking a lot better? Yeah. So press tick, I'll come back, and it's made the whole photo look more orange, which is really nice, but it's too strong because I was just focusing on that blue part. So up the top there, next to the information button, we have that history icon, and then I go to view edits, and this is where I can see all the steps we've taken so far. So prior to doing the white balance, that's what it looked like. White balance, you can see we've destroyed the whole photo, but I prepared you, Marion. I told you that was going to happen. So now I tap on that, and you can see in the middle there, we can just trash it, get rid of it, that whole thing, go, no, don't like it. Or this one here I love. In the middle is the masking icon. So tap on that. Okay, so I want to pinch and zoom to that blue area. And I want to go in there and paint over that blue area that we've fixed that color cast. Just paint over that, and you can see that's looking really cool. Got rid of all that blue. You can see what I mean. You can see what I mean about my finger painting skills. If I press that little eye icon, you can see where I've swiped with my finger, and I've gone way outside the line. And that's why outside of that shadow, you can see it's gone really awful orange. That's because of my fat fingers. So I'm going to have to go back to 0 and go and paint the other side of that line. There we go. Perfect. And the water as well. Yep, lovely. There we go. So if I go back to the steps, and if I just go that way, so that's what it looked like before. And then with this little edit where I've gone and played around with the white balance, concentrated on just that blue area and added a bit of orange to it, and then went through and masked and applied it exactly where we want. We've gone to that. So it just looks much more natural. We can now go in there with our brush again and just darken it a little bit. So with the brush, and go in here and just swipe over and darken it as well. There we go. So we've got rid of all that blue. That's looking much better. Much better.
Yeah.
All right. What I would like to do now is take this into Lightroom so we can have a bit of a play around with individual colors. I think the crop is really nice, how you crop that. I think that's looking really good. Yeah, so how about we do that? I'll open this up into Lightroom.
Yep.
Alrighty, so this is open up in Lightroom now. Change my little lower third down the bottom there. Lightroom, beautiful. There we go. Do you use Lightroom very often, Marion?
Look, I've tried to get into it, Mike, but it does me head in.
Yeah, I totally get it. I used to use Photoshop when I was doing a lot of photography, using desktop and big cameras and that sort of thing. Never really used Lightroom. And when I became a mobile purist, I kind of decided I'm never using Photoshop ever again. And I kind of painted the Lightroom with the same brush. It's like, nah, it's Adobe product, not interested. And it was only probably about a year ago that I started playing around with it. And I'm just really amazed at how, once you get past that initial hurdle, it's fantastic. There's a lot of...
That's what a lot of people say. It's just getting over that hurdle.
Yeah. Well, I put together an ebook where I explain all the different tools in there, and I didn't go too much into when you would use them. I talked about how you use it, what the tools are, because that is the biggest obstacle for most people is they go, I'm swiping the screen, but I've got no idea what it's doing. So that's why I put together that ebook with some video tutorials as well. And that's really popular. But the reason why I've brought it in here is because there's some things that Lightroom does better than Snapseed, and there's other things that Snapseed do better than Lightroom. So generally speaking, from my perspective, and it's just my perspective, Snapseed does a better job with those selective edits than Lightroom. Now, Lightroom, if you buy and you subscribe to their plan, it unlocks masking, and you can do more things with masking. It's not great though. To be completely honest, in my opinion, I think Snapseed does a better job, and another app called Polar, Pollarr, 2 R's, that's available on Google Play. That one might be worth you having a look. It's got a bit more of a steep learning curve, but the masking tools in there is better than Snapseed and Lightroom combined. But why I brought this in here is I want to go into this color icon, and because I want to play around with the sky, because I think that sky looks really nice, and I want to just make it a little bit more saturated and make that bit more of a feature of this photo. If we use the saturation tool, it'll go and saturate every color. It'll make those oranges just blown out and look really yucky. So up the top right corner, you'll be able to watch this when I post this, Marion.
I'm writing things down too.
Oh, fantastic. Beautiful. All right. Because if you're not familiar with the layout, this might be a little bit of a fire hose thing. You know how I talk fast. So
that's okay.
Cool. So up the top right corner there, we've got a color wheel. All right. So I want to tap on that color wheel. And what that does is that brings up individual color channels. So every photo that we capture has your red, green, blue, and then a combination of those. So it has all these different colors. And one thing I love about Lightroom is I can go in here and I can go to the orange channel, and I can go where there's already orange in this photo, and I can make it really saturated, or I can completely remove it. Have a look at those mountains now. When I yeah, and it's just the orange that's in the photo. So the blue got left alone, the green's got left alone, and it's just the orange. So now I can go and completely saturate it. So this is my favorite tool inside Lightroom by far, is the color, playing around with the colors. Now, up the top there, you've got hue. So we've got hue, saturation, and luminance. Hue is where we can change the color orange to just slightly one way or the other on the color wheel, so we can turn it into a bit of a different color. So if I go to the extreme, I can go that way. Looks like it's on fire. Or I can go that way and make it look really just odd. But we can go just a small increment. We can. So I might just go to there. Hardly touched it. Luminance is the brightness. So I can go in there and make that a lot brighter, darker, and it just concentrates on those orange colors in there. So that's really cool. If we wanted to, like we said earlier, if we wanted to blend in those shadows on the mountains, that's kind of how we would do it. But I think that looks really good. But what I want to concentrate on is the blue. Now we've kind of got two blue channels here. We've got an aqua, and then we've got like a navy blue. And I'm not quite sure which one would be the sky. So that's pretty good. Doesn't really do much. Let's go to the other blue. That one does a lot more. So that's the color. Now, if we're not sure, up the top there, next between color mix and done, we have this little target. You see the target icon? Looks like a shooting target. If I tap on that, and now I'll go and tap on brightness. Now with my finger, back to our finger again, we go and touch on the blue area of the sky, and you can see there it's gone. You can see on the right-hand side of my screen there, you can see when I drag, it's picked up what color combination there is there. Okay, you can see the numbers changing.
Yeah.
So those numbers there, it's gone, okay, it's a bit of this blue and it's a lot more of this blue, and it's actually doing the work for us in selecting it. And so that's called the target tool, and it's just fantastic. But you can see there, it's going really
I'm really liking that.
Yeah. So you can see that it's kind of going really grungy. So it's not doing what I wanted. I wanted to kind of come up with a nice deep blue to kind of a photo for aesthetic. So I want to have that real nice harmony between the orange and the blue, because photos that have got orange and blue in there look really nice. And Adobe, every year, they release color trends. And a color trend from a couple of years ago was photos that have blue and orange in there do really well online for aesthetics and that sort of thing. So that's what I was trying to do there, was just kind of make that a darker blue, but we've got a little bit of banding happening there, and it's not really working. So we might just abandon that idea using that. Let's go with saturation though. We might be able to saturate it. Actually, that's not bad. We got just a little bit. And might bring a little bit of magenta in. Yeah, okay, I'll go with that. That's pretty good. Next I want to play around with is the green. So I want to go and tap on the green now. And I want to saturate the green a little bit. And you can see that how interesting is this? Where I've tapped on the screen, our eye tells us that green, that grass is green, doesn't it? You look at it and go, oh yeah, it's green.
Yeah.
But when I tap on it and then swipe, it's actually telling us up there on the top there, it's going, okay, yeah, it's a lot of green. Yeah, it's got a little bit of blue in there too. So that's really cool. All right, happy with that. And just tap on that to go back, and done. All right, that's pretty cool. I'm happy with that. This isn't so much about the end result, Marion. This is just about showing you a couple of techniques and tools and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I'm happy with that.
I'm very, very interested. I'll be playing with that one.
Yeah, fantastic. So what I want to do now is I want to bring this back to Snapseed again. And so I'll bring myself up on the screen while I do that. All right, so I'm back inside Snapseed here. The reason why I brought it back in Snapseed is because I like what we did with the blue sky using Lightroom. I like what we did with the orange and all that sort of thing. The grass kind of pops a little bit more. Everything pops a little bit without being saturated. But it's because it's a mobile phone and it's taken at a distance and all that sort of thing. We've got
Yeah.
this really yucky looking sky happening right now. So I've got a really good tip to fix that. So if we go into the pencil and then we go to details up the top. Now, when I go to details, everyone kind of uses that for just sharpening. But one thing about Snapseed that's really cool is that you can go into a negative value as well. So structure is where there is that affects and applies sharpening to where there's some clear contrast and definition in the photo. Sharpening is basically every single dot of information indiscriminately gets sharpened, so it sharpens everything in the photo. Structure just goes to where there's some lines and some variation. It'll go and increase the difference in that variation. So what I want to do is go negative, and I'm just looking at the sky. And have a look at what happens here when I go negative. So I've brought it up, and I go swap it to the left. Have a look at this.
Oh, wow.
Look at that.
That's
There's our
cool.
before, and there's our after. So we've completely smoothed that sky. If I zoom back, how clean does that look?
Oh,
Now
that looks good.
I'm just looking at the sky because you can see that it's affected everything. Like this, look at the whole photo's gone blurry. But I'm just looking at the sky because now, as we did before, press on the tick, go back into my history, view edits, and I'm looking at the details. Now, everything we did before is not there. And the reason we touched on that, the reason why this is so is because we saved this photo the first time we were in Snapseed, took it over into Lightroom. Inside Lightroom, we did our stuff. And then we saved it to the camera roll or the gallery, and now we've loaded it again into Snapseed. So that explains why we can't see everything we've done, because they both don't they're two different programs, two different apps. All right, so what I want to do, tap on details, and now I want to mask and just paint in the sky. So by default, it comes up with the before photo, and then with my finger, I'm just painting over the sky. And I reckon this is probably the best tip out of all of them. Because look at that sky.
Yeah.
That's just beautiful now. Yeah. Yep.
So details, and then you're rubbing your finger over it.
Yeah, so details and a negative value. Yeah. And it's a great way, and I know you've got a really good Android phone, and I can tell you've got a really good Android phone because when I zoom in, the real cheap Android phones, where there's an edge, like there on the mountain top there, where there's an edge, the cheap Androids will have a really kind of a halo effect where the Android, whatever model it is, will go, okay, we want to make these photos look really sharp. And what it'll do is it'll go and make that edge dark on one side and bright on the other side, and you end up with that really light and dark line and that halo. But your phone, that's really, really nice. It hasn't done that. So your inbuilt editor, when it captures the photo and saves as a JPEG, it's really, really nice. So yeah, great.
Yeah, no, that looks awesome.
We've covered a lot. I mean, we could even have a look at this. I'll just do one last thing here. So we can actually go in and we can smooth this water. Anyway, I'm going overboard now. But yeah, great photo. Lots of potential there, and
no, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Mark. Yeah.
No worries, Marion. It was nice to see you again.
Yeah, you too. And you're still doing amazing work. I still follow you.
Oh, fantastic. That's great.
Yeah.
All right, so that was a lot of fun with Marion. After Marion left, I had a little bit more of a play around with the photo, and so I thought I'll come back and record this little bonus bit. So Marion, I'm glad you watched the YouTube replay of our session, because here's a couple of little extra bits in here that I didn't play around with while we were live, but I think this will add some real value. So I basically, when we touched on earlier in the call, we talked about the human element, having a human person in there. It provides scale. It provides that third-person perspective, looking over your shoulder. Imagine us being there. And so I wanted to grab this person and make them stand out a little bit more. So a couple of things to do that is, one, to create some leading lines towards them. And we can't reintroduce elements. So what we can do is bring up the screen here. Is I can use my edit and my brush tool, and I can use dodge and burn, and I can brighten up areas of the foreground and kind of encourage us to look back towards her. So there's two areas here where the snow is, where it's actually already has kind of highlighted that area. So I'm just going to highlight that further. So just with the so I'm just dodging now. So I'm brightening these areas, these existing areas that are here, this foreground, and this little tire track here of the ice. So that's all I'm doing there, is just highlighting and bringing our attention to it. So it's only subtle. There's the before, there's the after. Just a subtle thing. So we've done that. The next thing I want to do is bring this person to life a little bit more, make them stand out a bit more. Because when I first saw this photo, I didn't even see them. And it was only when I was really studying the photo that I saw them. So to make them stand out, we can use one of my favorite apps, Handy Photo by Adversoft. Is the developer. It's like $2.99, something like that, $2.49, less than a cup of coffee. And what we can do is we can actually pick her up and move her and make her a little bit bigger. And what I'm thinking is, I want to try and silhouette them and make them kind of isolated, and bring the top of them up into that lake, so that we can go along the edge of the lake and then go, oh, there's a person there, and then our eye continues. So I'm going to open this up into Handy Photo now. All right, so we're inside Handy Photo. Basically, we go up to the top right there, we have the hand, and we're going to select Move Me. We want to move them. And then with our brush, just zoom in. We can zoom right in. This app is fantastic. Pixel peep. So we're going to zoom right in. And we've got a little magnifying loop there, so it really helps us to get nice and close to the edges. So I'm just going to work on that now. Beauty of this recording is that I can fast forward this. So I'm going to do that now, fast forward, so you don't have to watch me painstakingly go around the outline. All right, so now that we've done that, now I want to move her. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. And it's the middle icon, so it's the outline, that one there. And look at this. How cool is that? This is, like I said, this is the same company that does the app Touch Retouch. Fantastic app. And what it's done is it's filled in that area, which is, I mean, that's just so cool. I love it. All right, so I'm going to zoom back out. Whoop, I just flipped them upside down. And what I can do now is make them bigger. And now this is creative license. The reality is, the further things are away from our smartphone, the smaller they get. So it's not realistic perspective. So this person, to the eye in that location, probably was this big. Now, I'm not going to make them ridiculous, because they provide scale. So I want to use the shed as a scale, as a reference there. And we do know that she is further down the embankment there towards the water. So I think that looks pretty good. Now, again, we can move her to wherever we want. So I might move her to about there, so that those two converging lines, those parallel lines that head towards a diminishing point, go off into the edge of the frame. So I want to kind of follow that and use this tire track down the bottom to kind of bring the attention back up there again. So I think there is pretty good. So we're going to go down and paste that in there, and there we go. So that's pretty cool. I'm really happy with that. Just adds a little finishing touch to add that third person perspective and kind of draw the viewer in. So thanks again, Marion, and I hope you caught this in the replay in the YouTube. See you later.